What's happening, y'all? This is Todd Wilson. We have a very special bonus show for you today. I have Tarek Fattal from SB Live, my guy.
Yeah, man.
Awesome. This is your high school basketball preview for Southern California. We have many topics that we're going to hop into, but mainly just want to talk about top of the crop. We're going to talk about the teams that are going to be in the open division and just some local basketball news that you guys can enjoy and really get a preview of the teams that are in your area and what to look out for. Tarek.
Thanks for coming in. Thanks for having me in. I think the first thing I want to start off with is when it comes to high school basketball in Southern California, I do think it's probably the richest set of talent we have, maybe in the country. And, when I tell people, they go, "Hey, man, what do you do for work?" I go, "I'm a sports reporter." And they usually, they see stuff I do on TV and they go, "Oh, man, like is that what you do full time?" It's like, no, my full-time job is I'm a high school reporter. And automatically they think of their 11 or 12-year-old niece dribbling up and down and the final score is 13-4. And no. I am covering future college players and pros. I've done it. I've been doing it for almost 10 years. And so every year as a basketball fan, football is a whole different beast and it's got elk of talent on its own. However, when it comes to basketball, it's a little bit more, kind of feeds my soul a little bit more because I am a basketball guy, and I don't think there's any better talent in the country than Southern California.
I 100% agree, and that's from me seeing the talent across the country. I think it's spread out in different places for sure. Southern California brings, you get the NBA kids, right, and then you just have the athleticism. You get these NFL kids. You just get a high level of athleticism and then high level coaching. Most of these coaches in the top leagues out here, I believe, can be college coaches or were college coaches. And I think that's the biggest difference maker is that the culture of basketball in Southern California is almost it's a gift and a curse, right?
Yes.
You have the gift of being able to see high level basketball and seeing these kids go to college and then eventually some of them make it to the pro, but you also get a lot of kids who are overlooked. You get the kids who, just because they're in Southern California, they're the number 10 point guard in Southern California, so they're not getting the looks they may deserve because the other 9 are here. But if they were anywhere else in the country, I believe that they would be looked at for
and before we get into the nitty gritty, I'd like to add on that in regard to Division III basketball. I always kind of bring this up. There's a stigma out here for Division III basketball. I believe there's only one league. I call it the SCIAC. Some people call it the SCIAC. I don't really know what the heck it is, but it's like Cal Lutheran and so on and so forth. And it's like, if you're not going D1, you're like not a good player or something. It's like if you go to any other part of the country, you grow up hoping you can play at your local Division III, Division II, or all those schools, man. Like those, such a good level of college basketball. And so I always look at kids, and I watch a kid, and I'll go, "Hey, coach, what's his grade point average?" "Oh, he's a 4.2. Okay, great. What level does he want to play?" "Yeah, like, his parents and they're all on the Division I thing." And I'm just thinking, that's a Division III player. 100%. High academic, can go get a great education and get the experience of playing college basketball. And so when you talk about kids that are kind of under the radar or left behind, I think some of them and their families are doing it to themselves because there's still so much opportunity to play a different level of college basketball and still get a great experience, and they kind of shun it away because it's like, nah, it's not Division I. And I would argue there are many more Division III college campuses that are a lot better than CSUN.
Right.
But they'd rather go to CSUN because it's Division I. So I had to get that last little blurb in there.
No, I think it's extremely important, and I think there's programs out here now who are finally bringing the attention to the high academic schools is what they are, right? The high academic institutions that you can use basketball as a resource and as a networking tool, and just even scholarship. When you cross the Mississippi and you're on the West Coast, your tuition kind of drops in half for most kids, and so those opportunities will be amazing if you open your eyes to them, and you're only as good as the level you're getting recruited at. And if you're not, guess what? You'll be a Derek White, who's in the NBA now, but was at a D2, and guess what? His coach called University of Colorado and said, "You have to take this
There
kid.
You go.
He doesn't belong here." Because that's how basketball works.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
absolutely.
yeah.
All right. So man, hopping into Southern California
Sure.
basketball, who should we be looking out for this year?
I think if I know you're kind of more centered in kind of the San Fernando Valley, northern Los Angeles area. It's where I grew up as well. So I think when you look at the Mission League, top to bottom, it's one of the better leagues, if not the best high school basketball league in the country, for sure in the state, no question. Definitely in Southern California, and that's because of Harvard Westlake. Harvard Westlake is probably the best place to start. Why? Because of the defending Open Division state champions. They didn't win the Southern Section Open Division championship, right, but they ended up continuing on and winning the state championship up in Sacramento at the Golden One Center. I was there to watch it. And, another thing that is so impressive about the way they did it is they didn't do it with a bunch of transfers. They had one transfer in a 4-year window, and that was Brady Dunlap, who's now at St. John's. He's graduated, but I think we have to start with Harvard Westlake. Trent Perry, Nicholas Kamenia, Robert Hinton, those three right there. It's like can't miss bona fide dudes. Trent Perry just committed to USC. He's going to be a Trojan. Nick Kamenia is only a junior. And, we don't know exactly, at least in my opinion, I don't know exactly what Nick Kamenia is going to be yet. Is he going to grow even taller? He's probably a good 6'7" or 6'8" now. Is he going to end up being like some 6'10" stretch right. 4 like monster? Is he probably going to stay at 6'8" and like fill out? And now he's like this wing type shooter player, because I just look at his size and the way he can shoot. And I've always been of the opinion, if you can shoot, play defense, and not turn the ball over, you can play anywhere in America. Within reason.
Especially if you're 6'9".
Yeah, so yeah, you're like a tall guy that can shoot. And if you can guard, the college basketball world is your oyster, and that's Nick Kamenia. And David Urbibo has said on the record, that's the head coach at Harvard Westlake, Nick Kamenia might be the best player he's ever coached. Yeah. So it just goes, and he's coached some really good players, and two that are in the NBA, and Johnny Juzang and Cassius Stanley. So to say that it speaks volumes. So Harvard Westlake, and then if I had to dive a little bit more into the Mission League, certainly Notre Dame of Sherman Oaks. The big headliner there is Mercy Miller. They're the defending Division I California state champions, as you know. Last year they had Caleb Foster, who's at Duke. In my opinion, since Drew Holiday, I know people are like, come on, but I can defend it. That's the point of an opinion. Caleb Foster, in my opinion, since Drew, when I watched him play, there was nothing he couldn't do. Shoot it, go by you, create a foul, guard you, steal from you, whatever he needed to do, he could do it. Yeah. And Drew was like that. There was nothing he couldn't do. He was clearly above everyone else. And Caleb Foster, to me, was that on the floor and ended up leading Notre Dame to Division I state championship. All that to say, he's gone. So Mercy Miller now is the senior. He's back. He's committed to Houston.
He gets better every time I see him.
You talking about Mercy Miller?
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
From the end of last year, the state championship to Pangos camp,
okay,
and now more recently in the Border League, he just keeps elevating his game every single time he steps on the court. He's just more efficient. He's smarter. He's making the high IQ decisions. He's really preparing himself for the next level. Doing that now in high school makes him an elite player.
The most impressive thing about Mercy Miller, for those of you out there, go to Max Preps or whatever and go look at his stats. An outstanding rebounder. A lot of people don't. When you watch him from the guard position, I think he averaged 9 or 10 rebounds a game last year.
Wow.
Yeah, outstanding rebounder. And a really nice kid too. But a couple other ones to keep an eye out for. Of course, the other one is Bryce James. Got to mention him. That's LeBron James' youngest son. He's grown up to be about 6'7", 6'8". So Bronny was kind of more of a 6'2", 6'3" kind of explosive guard that could shoot it and defend and played with high energy. And I really liked Bronny's game. Bryce is a little bit more like Pops. In regards to his body, he's 6'7", long. You can tell he's still a young boy. The shoulders will fill out. Right. He's always been able to dunk, but it's like just because he's tall, now he's starting to like elevate when he jumps. Right. So still growing. And I think he's 17 years old and kind of on the younger side of it. So Bryce James, another one, and then the other two I will bring that I will mention is Lino Mark, who I believe, I don't think he's committed, but I know he's got an offer to Washington State and maybe a couple other D1s. Yep. He's a junior. And then sophomore Zach White. Yep. Really, really good player. One that I think could probably be one of the better players to come out of Notre Dame when it's all said and done in regards to 4 years. He might be up there with a guy like Dusty Stromer, who's now at Gonzaga. So really good program there that's vying for a Mission League title. So we got Harvard Westlake, we got Notre Dame, and of course we got Sierra Canyon. Sierra Canyon, I wouldn't say they've fallen on hard times. Everyone's so like critical of them. Not at all. They're still really, really good. In fact, I got a good stat for you off the top of my head. Since the Open Division was created in either 14 or 15, only one program has been in the Open every year, and that's Sierra Canyon. Wow. It was Mater Dei and Sierra Canyon up until last year, but Mater Dei went to the Division I playoffs. They weren't quite as good, young team. And again, it's like, oh, this team has fallen on hard times. No, they've just been so good for so long. It's like they're here now, and everyone thinks they're like down
hard
here.
times is going like Division IV after a few years.
Yeah,
like,
no, nothing like that. Well above 500 and still traveling across the country and playing games, stuff like that. But Sierra Canyon's another one. Isaiah Elohim, of course, is the big one, just committed to Arkansas. We'll see what his senior year brings. He's a player that kind of seems to always have to miss games because he's a little banged up. So for me, I'm always thinking as a reporter, can he take care of his body? Can he be available? And can he lead the team?
So he changed his routine this offseason. So I speak with his father a lot. And they've been seeing the right people to try to keep him healthy and managing. He's a workhorse, and that's
so you got to protect him from himself a little bit.
Protect him from himself because he's a workhorse. He's always in the gym. He's always trying to go. Okay, and also his style of game, because he's such an aggressive slasher, protecting himself when he's going up. He's trying to dunk on you every single time, and you're going to take some hard falls when you attack the rim like that. And so he has to learn to protect himself, and he did that by putting some muscle on this offseason and also just playing off of 2 feet more. If you watched him this past weekend in the Border League as well, Sierra Canyon played amazing, by the way. Like when the people were like, oh, they fell off, and then they saw him play in the Border League, it was like, oh, they can actually go without the big names.
I've got a theory on that. But continue on Isaiah.
With the big names, he's playing safer, right? Okay. He's playing more under control. He's getting to spots on the court, understanding how to protect himself and still being an elite athlete.
There was a game last year. I believe it was Christ the King from New York came to town and played Sierra Canyon. Cayenne Anthony was on the team, was still only a sophomore, so he wasn't their best guy, but he played. And there was no question Isaiah Elohim. I believe it was that game. Might have been another game, but I'm pretty sure it was that game. He was the best player on the floor. He would. I want to. In watching him play now for 4 years, I think his favorite spot on the floor is like just below the free throw line. He loves to get to that like middle key.
That little spin.
And raise up. And then he's got so much strength. It almost doesn't matter how he elevates. He's got enough strength to kind of center, to square himself up and have the touch to put it in the hoop. So I just like to see him on the court more. That's just the truth. Every time Heritage Christian, he had a great freshman year. He transferred to Sierra Canyon. It just seems, it might be false, but it seems like he has to miss games because he's got some ailments. So I'm glad to hear that he's taking care of his body more. A couple more Sierra Canyon guys as we move it along are Bryce Cofield. Yeah. I think Bryce Cofield actually has the potential to be a really, really high major player that could be like a perimeter shutdown guy. I think if Andre Chevalier, the head coach at Sierra Canyon, who's a defensive style dude, can really just channel Bryce Cofield into being like, hey, you're gonna shut down the other guy's best perimeter. He's got the build and length to impose his will on other guards. So I'd like to see him out of that. I remember last year I told Andre Chevalier that Mick Cronin and UCLA, their staff, they keep track of deflections. Yeah, it's an off-box score stat. And Jalen Clark, Corona Centennial now in the NBA, would get like 17, 18, 20 deflections a game. Yeah. And so I remember telling Andre that, and he called Bryce Cofield over. This is last year. And Bryce was like, hey, man, Jalen Clark, UCLA. And Bryce was like, ooh, like, I like that stat. It like fired him up a little bit. Yeah. And Andre's like, we can keep track of deflections, man. You might be the best at it. So when I hear stuff like that, I think of a good defender. And then maybe a couple other ones might be Justin Pippen, who's gotten a lot better. He's kind of played a more like this like perimeter guard, point guard position, can really shoot it. He's like 6'6", long, athletic. So he's a really good player. And then they have Noah Williams, transfer from Village Christian. They've got little Askew. I can't think of his first name right now. Jordan Askew, Devin Askew's little brother. And then Majuk, like big 7-foot, kid. So
and then they added depth.
They got Ethan Johnson, who's really a great role player for them. I think if he can be a consistent knockdown shooter.
Yeah.
There's so many weapons on the floor. Sierra Canyon has kind of gone out and tried to get, I say that probably that don't, I'm not in violation by saying that, but basically they have transfers that come in with the intent of being sharpshooters, and they don't always seem to pan out. Actually, the last one to come in and actually do anything was Ryan Grandy from La Cañada, and he would, like, if he was open, like, for the most part, it would go down.
Yeah.
But since then, and before then, like, really no one that could space the floor, and if there was a help, like, it's down. You know, everyone in the gym's thinking, okay, that's good. They've really not really had that player, and Ethan Johnson might be that for Sierra Canyon. So that's the top level of the Mission League. One more tidbits before we move forward. You know, Crespi has what's his name? Joe Sterling and Peyton White are really good players, and
they've been playing a lot of events around. They've been winning. It's new head coach Derek Fisher.
And,
you know, he has his son in, and as well as the Barnes boys. And it's a very interesting dynamic just because they play good basketball. They do a great job of playing good, solid basketball with no egos. And I think it's different from what we've seen in the past with Crespi, right? And it's working because there's so much talent. They're young talent, right?
Really young.
Even Joe's a sophomore, right? Young talent, but playing together can get you so far, even in the Mission League, and maybe scratch away some wins that you don't think that you would have with such a young team.
That team, I don't know if they, I got in an argument with someone about this. I don't know if they should, but I don't know if they should get. So the Mission League has 8 teams in it. If you finish in the top 4, you earn an automatic playoff berth.
Right.
So there are people that believe that Crespi should get that 4th spot. Well, the Mission League's so talented, and I don't know the names right now, but the team to watch out for in that league is Alamany.
Alamany, yep.
They just brought in like 4 or 5 dudes. 3 of them, I want to say, or maybe all of them, or most of them, are from San Gabriel Academy, and we're talking like 6'8", 6'9", 6'10", 6'7". I mean, huge. So Alamany is a surprise team. Todd Wolfson at St. Francis, not Todd Wilson, but Todd Wolfson at St. Francis.
All the time,
Oh, I'm sure it happens all the time. Todd Wolfson, I mean, really one of the best coaches around in regard to getting the most out of his team. Because when you watch them, watch them walk in a gym, and he's told this to me, this isn't something I'm just making up. He's literally been asked by other people, like, oh, is this like your JV team? Because they don't come in like looking like they're ready to rock. But boy, he coaches them up. He's a really good dude. And Todd Wolfson, man, like that team, St. Francis is never an easy out.
No,
ever.
And they have a top 25 player, Mozzie
Mosley.
They got the heritage Christian transfer, Dylan Grant in. But they're always, like I said, they're always solid. They always have kids who play their roles, and
they got a big kid that's good too. So that's another one. Okay, Alamany. Loyola, I think, is going to be a little down this year. They lost a transfer. They lost a point guard named Jaden Patterson. He left. And I want to say, and then there's Chaminade. I don't know what Chaminade has so much this year, but they will.
I've seen them recently.
They'll compete.
They're young, fearless, and scrappy.
I want to say, is it Jonas Thurman?
Yes.
Okay,
he's a bucket.
Yeah.
And so
there you go.
They played Heritage Christian in a fall league game a few weeks back, and he was very aggressive. And they're just chippy. They're going to play physical. They're going to compete. And
that's Coach Brian Cantwell. And that's last thing about the Mission League before we move on. I mean, every coach knows what they're doing. Every coach is extremely. You mentioned it. You said some of these coaches could be coaching in college. Yeah. Absolutely. But when you are in the Mission League, and these private schools understand athletics are important, and so these coaches are doing well for themselves, and they live good lives. They get to go home and be with their families, which a lot of college coaches don't get to do. There's a quality of life aspect there. Anyway, so I know
do want to shout out Jared Mims over at Alamany.
Yeah.
Well.
Okay.
He is the one. I think he
little
is
guard.
Yes, he is the center of that team. Just watching them play.
Okay.
He makes them go. All those pieces they got don't make sense without somebody to distribute and organize.
We'll see if they can put it together. That's the
fast,
world we live in. It's like the transfer era. Okay, great, you got this talent, but now you got to do something with it. Yes. So we'll see how the Mission League pans out, and it'll be fun to watch. But yeah, Harvard, Westlake, Sierra Canyon, Notre Dame, St. Francis, Crespi, Loyola, Alamany, Chaminade. Those are the 8 teams.
Perfect. Awesome. So, any other leagues in Southern California that
Yeah,
really
I'm going
stand
to go to
out?
my
And
little cheat sheet here. So the Trinity League is probably that second league that's really, really competitive. And I would say just we won't go through the whole league, but maybe like the top 2 or 3 teams to mention are definitely St. John Bosco.
yeah,
I would argue coming back this season, St. John Bosco might be the team to beat. And I know Harvard Westlake's the defending champion, but St. John Bosco, really, really talented team. So we're talking about Brandon McCoy, who is
yeah,
like an up and coming, just like lottery pick type projected
he's
guy.
ridiculous.
And then we have LZ Harrington is the other
Yes.
guard. Jack Turner's
Yeah.
a really, really good high school player and really, a college player. What level of college? I don't know.
He's committed.
Okay, he is
He's
committed.
Division I committed.
Okay, yeah.
Jack is,
So
yeah,
good for him.
Yeah.
And there's a couple other ones, but
they're big guy. They got two 7-footers.
okay. I know they're really talented, and Coach Matt Dunn does a really good job. So that's St. John Bosco. Mater Dei's got a really good team.
Yeah.
They're the defending Division I CAF Southern Section champions. Brandon Martinson is the name everyone's raving about. He's only a sophomore, and from the questionnaire I got from the coach, he's like up to like 6'7" or 6'8", so he grew. He can shoot it. Really, really good player. They've got Belknap.
Yep,
Scotty Belknap, and then they've got another kid. I don't want to get this wrong. Brandon Benjamin is a kid that was at Canyon in Anaheim.
Okay.
And I think he was like the league MVP in that league, and now he's at Mater Dei. So you're
That's
talking about, and there's a plethora of more talented
They
teams.
always have size. I think they got 2 kids, 6'8".
So they had a kid. They had a big kid last year named Nick Davidson. I think he's graduated. So his little brother Zach Davidson is now there, and he's like the big fella in the middle. So yeah, the Monarchs, basically that whole Division I Southern Section team, except for one guy, is back. So and they're all,
and then adding MVP of the league.
Exactly. So they're gonna be tough to beat. And then Jay Serra, real quick, I think that these are the top 3 in that league. Jay Serra has a coach named Keith Wilkinson who's really, really cool, and they've got Sebastian Rancic, who's really a big kid. He's got Power 5 per se offers, and then they got this little guard. Let me make sure I get his name right. Aiden Fowler, who's really, really good. So, and then they've got a couple freshmen coming in that are going to be pretty good too. So Jay Serra, I think those, I don't know in which order, but St. John Bosco, Jay Serra, and Mater Dei, and I'm sure Santa Margarita's got a good team too. I just can't think of names off the top of my head.
Yeah, no. They have another little brother from the 2 brothers. I know this sounds crazy.
They got little Kyman.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Jake. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay.
Little Kyman. And they're always coached really well.
Yeah.
And they're definitely always competing.
Oh yeah.
And then you have what we would consider the bottom half of that league with Olu and Servite as well. Olu, they got Jaden Hubbard, who was at Fairfax.
Okay.
Well, he was at Fairfax 2 years ago, and then he was at some other school in Orange County last year, and so he was a solid pickup for them. Don't know how much it moves the needle against the Mater Deis of the world.
Yeah, we'll see. And those 2 leagues, they're really competitive, and they always find a way to those teams always find a way into the playoffs. So we'll see.
Absolutely. So you got the 2 top leagues in Southern California. Now let's talk about the open division.
Yeah, sure.
Right. This is always the talk. Who's on the open division watch list? Who do you have? What teams do you have?
So I'm going to reel off some teams. So the open division is 8 teams. Okay. For those that don't know, it's 2 pools of 4, 8 teams. I'm going to reel off what I believe are like the 10 teams fighting for 8 spots. And then I've got like bubble, like guys after that. And then, and then we'll work on closing this thing up. So St. John Bosco, Harvard Westlake, Corona Centennial, Mater Dei, Roosevelt with Braden Burries and Isaac Williamson, Jay Serra, Notre Dame of Sherman Oaks, Sierra Canyon, Santa Margarita, and Windward, Gavin Hightower, and Jeremiah Hampton. So those are the 10. Bosco, Westlake, Centennial, Mater Dei, Roosevelt, Jay Serra, Notre Dame, Sierra Canyon, Santa Margarita, and Windward. One more time for you guys out there. Those, I think, are the 10 way too early, open division watch list teams. Kind of the next 5 or 6 teams is St. Pius, Tyrone Riley, and Douglas Langford, really, really good players. West Ranch has James Evans and a little guard named Daryl Morris. West Ranch was in the open division last year, but they lost some firepower, so we'll see. Bishop Montgomery, I don't know their team too well. Still waiting on that questionnaire from Doug Mitchell. Coach, come on, send it on back. But that's a program where it's like the Todd Wolfson effect. Yeah. Doug Mitchell I get this, like when I think of Doug Mitchell, I think of like this guy that's been around basketball for forever, and he's like just in his basement, like with like beakers and like formulas. Oh my gosh, man! Like he always finds a way to have really good teams. Yeah. So do not be surprised if Bishop Montgomery's in the fold once again. St. Bernard, Taj Ariza is there. He's a really good player. Korean Lutheran has Victorious Miller and Caden Bailey. Yeah. So that's another team that could compete. And then the last one I have on here is I can't read my own writing. Heritage Christian. I got Heritage Christian on here. I think they're Division I. They are a Division I team. So
they're 2AA this year.
They're 2AA?
They're 2AA.
Oh my gosh. See, that's news to me. So maybe we'll scratch them off. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. But they've got a lot of young talent led by Tay Simmons. And so I think that's always a team that's just, I can guarantee you this. I can guarantee you that when the Southern section releases their open division watch list, Heritage Christian will be on it. It's like 25 teams for 8 spots.
Right.
So they always put them on there just because they're usually making noise and they've got talent. So absolutely, we'll see. I'm drawing. Is it Dylan Shaw? Dylan Shaw, Tay Simmons.
Roman Fisher.
Those are the 3.
And they have a really good freshman coming in, Josiah Nance.
That's right. Okay. So talent's there. Coach Paul Tay does a good job running a program. We'll see. They've knocked on the door before. Can they bust it through this year? I don't know, but I know all those guys come back.
Yes.
So maybe this is a not this year but next year team. Right. So we'll see.
Go play in the 2AA and get one of those. Why not?
Win yourself a little CIF championship if you can. So, I didn't know about the 2AA. See, that's another thing. So if you're talking about Heritage Christian being in 2AA this year,
Rolling Hills Prep, Campbell Hall.
Yeah, like it automatically puts you like, okay, now if you just take care of business and you're healthy and playing at the right time, you have a very good chance of winning a CIF title.
I noticed you didn't have Campbell Hall in this list.
Yeah, no, I think Campbell Hall, too many question marks, and I think
then Tanner Jones injury.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Aaron Powell's a good player, and Iskandari, and who else did I see?
Isaiah Johnson.
Like I watched them play in the fall league. They actually beat St. Pius in a fall league game. But as much as fall league, yeah, okay, it's a win and a loss and you're competing. You just can't put too much stock in it.
Right.
It's like watching preseason NBA basketball. You're not so much fixated on the result as much as you are fixated on how your team's looking, how guys are playing together, how do we compete, do we like each other, okay, do we hate each other? Right. That's what you're looking for in these games. And, getting a win's always a whipped cream on top, but, I don't put too much stock into Campbell Hall winning in the fall. So we'll see. But yeah, David Grace is the new coach. Yeah. And been a high level Division I assistant for many, many years, UCLA, Vanderbilt, and a couple other stops. So certainly knows his basketball, has those guys competing every day in practice. And I wouldn't be surprised if they had a very, very good season and maybe took a stab at some big time teams they're in the the Gold Coast League, not the Olympic League, and that's like Windward, Crossroads, Brentwood, some really, really good teams. So Campbell Hall, maybe they'll mix it up, and another team in there that I'd like to shout out as Viewpoint. They got a great coach in JJ Prince, and they've got some quality players too.
Absolutely. No, I think so. When you look at the open division, right, well, the teams that are not in the Trinity or the Mission, what are some teams that we should be watching and players that we should be looking at?
Yeah, so I mean, Roosevelt's the big one. Braden Burry seems to be like the kid, like had the hugest summer of all. I mean, we already knew he was good, right? But what a year, what a summer he had. So I think that's someone that's coming back and that's going to play really well. And they've got Isaac Williamson. Corona Centennial is someone that we have to mention. I think they won 2 Open Division State Championships in a row the previous 2 years. So not this past year, but the previous 2 years. Right. And that was Jared McCain and guys like Mike Price and stuff like that. They're gone now, but they've got Eric Freeney and transfer Carter Bryant from Sage Hill. Another big time
University of Arizona commit.
Yeah, and so and Isaiah Rogers, I know, is a name you're thinking, hey man, he can make some noise, and I think he's only going to be a sophomore.
Right.
And Coach Josh Giles, I mean, talk about a guy that knows exactly what he's doing.
Program and culture.
Oh
and history,
man, like, and such a good dude, and the whole nine. So Corona Centennial is another one. I'm willing to bet. I don't know, lunch that Corona. I wouldn't go too crazy, but yeah, Corona Centennial will be in the open division. Barring like catastrophe of some sort, they'll be in. So those are the other ones I would say outside the Trinity League and Mission League. Roosevelt, Corona Centennial, and like maybe like a Windward. But I would even say Windward's kind of on the outside looking in. They're gonna have to earn it. Yeah. There's teams here that are like St. John Bosco, Harvard Westlake. They're gonna be in the Open Division. That's because, and not to say they don't have to earn it, but they're so good and they've been there before. Windward, I don't think has ever been in the Open Division before. So when you're talking about climbing into that, going to the Open Division, for those that aren't too familiar, that's like getting invited to the NCAA tournament. Right. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
That's a big deal because the Open Division is a committee. Like, it's humans sitting in a room thinking of the best 8 teams to create the most competitive high school basketball playoff division, arguably in the country. Right. So when you get selected, that's a really, really big deal. That means like you're the highest level of high school basketball program you could possibly get.
Absolutely. Are there any players that you're excited to watch that, through development, through time, and specifically here in the San Fernando Valley, I think?
Sure. I mean, Isaiah Elohim jumps out to me because I've not really seen him lead. I mean, that's just the truth. I've been watching the program and watching him his whole career. And I'm not saying he can't, but I've never come to a game and gone, okay, like, Isaiah, here's the platform for you to lead. And the Sierra Canyon team does have a renewed energy. Yeah. And it's not a slight. The LeBron James, Bronny, Bryce James camp being on that campus and being at school and being at the games night in and night out with all the cameras and the extra fluff, it creates extra distractions. It creates pressure, the whole 9. Yeah. And so for the coaching staff, for the players, that's all gone now.
Right.
And so there is this renewed energy where just basketball is the focal point. Yeah, there's still buzz because it's Sierra Canyon, but it's kind of like what Sierra Canyon used to be. Yeah. And so I think there is a refreshing, renewed energy there that allows for Isaiah Elohim to lead that team back to the promised land, kind of dramatic. But
I want to take you back because you were covering him at the time. The jump of Scottie Pippen Jr.'s from junior to senior year.
Oh, man.
I believe Justin Pippen is having that same jump
okay,
right now.
Yeah. Yeah, oh, Scottie Pippen. See, I would watch Scottie Pippen Jr., I'd watch him play. And one of the small detail that I watched him when I would watch him play, his off the ball. So he would, if the ball was in the post, he would drop. I mean, we're talking like a couple feet. And if you're watching, you're thinking that's not that big of a difference. Huge difference. Right. So someone would be in the post and he would be opposite side and he would make sure he's in the window for like the angle pass. Yeah. Or if someone drove baseline, let's say they kept the ball free throw line extended and he's on the opposite side and someone drove baseline, he would drop to the line of the ball. Like little things like that where he wouldn't just stand and watch. He was engaging with the game, even if he was on the other side of the floor. And to me, I'm like, okay, this dude's got a chance. Just off that alone, because I knew the other stuff would come. And the guy ended up leading the SEC in scoring for Vanderbilt. I mean, the team wasn't that good, but, he was tremendous, and now he's a pro. So Justin Pippen, I would say if he makes a leap like his brother, that would be tremendous. I don't quite see that. Yeah. But I know his role for that Sierra Canyon team is going to be very, very important to their success because he needs to make shots and really I think he's expected to pretty much play the point guard kind of lead guard role. Isaiah's going to, I think, be the scorer and the dominator. And then Justin Pippen's going to be the one to make open shots and maybe get guys where maybe the more cerebral kind of set it up type guy. Right. And I think that's going to be really interesting to see.
Absolutely. With Harvard Westlake, you have the Fantastic Four. And then you have Dominic Bento, who he got limited minutes as a freshman last year. Now he's a sophomore coming in. I think that, I think Harvard Westlake has always dominated the paint. Him being the 5th starter, at least at Border League, do you think that adjusts how Harvard Westlake plays the game? Or
so I don't know how much it adjusts it, but you make a really good point. There's been this kind of lineage of big fellas at Harvard Westlake. Truman Gettings, Mason Hooks, and the last one was Jacob Huggins. All had dominant presence inside and in kind of different ways. Mason Hooks and Truman Gettings were kind of these like big, broad, like bruisers. And then Jacob Huggins was more long, athletic, shot blocking, kind of like would make plays at the rim type kid. But for the most part, inside presence. If you didn't block him out, I literally saw him eat alive Notre Dame Sherman Oaks in the Mission League title game. Yeah. No one would block him out. The kid had like 12 offensive rebounds and that was it. That was the game. So that's Jacob Huggins. The closest person, in my opinion, to replace that is a junior named Isaiah Carroll. So Isaiah Carroll is this great, I don't know about a great story, but he is a good story about a kid who probably could have been a varsity level player just about anywhere else, but played junior varsity basketball as a sophomore at Harvard Westlake. Obviously for good reason. They won the Open Division State Championship, so you can't argue with it. However, I know for you, you know what playing at the right level and developing your skills can do for the greater good of the whole player. Yes. And to me, Isaiah Carroll is the epitome of that, where he played JV basketball, didn't play any or very little, if at all, varsity basketball last year. And here he is. I saw him in the fall, and we're talking kind of that long, athletic, inside presence type player, runs like a gazelle. So I see him more having an impact inside. I think Bento is a little bit of a different body, more physical. And I think there are going to be times where they're going to need him to defend other physical presence. I totally get that. And he has more experience at the varsity level than Isaiah Carroll. So you really have a really nice dynamic of like this 1-2 punch down low with Harvard Westlake, where you got kind of an experienced physical presence, but then you've got kind of this more like raw, athletic, dynamic presence. And depending on the matchup, David Rabibo, one of the best, he's going to find a way to mix them both in.
100%. That makes sense. I worked with Isaiah actually when he was in middle school, and what you're talking about is his focus on the game is he's just in the gym.
Okay, focused. So it tracks.
It 100%. He knew what it was going to Harvard Westlake, and he's just waiting for his turn. And I saw him play at Section 7. That was probably the most recent time I've seen him play. And he's also hitting threes pretty consistently and can step out and do some of those things as well. So very dynamic down there. And you always find those people, you always find those kids in programs like Harvard Westlake, in programs like Modern Day, where, you know, somebody who's just good at basketball, great high school basketball player, and will have the opportunity to play in college, I'm sure. So yeah. So any other guys that was so the good one I like you brought him up is Braden Burries. And so the reason that it felt like he popped on the scene because he had to sit his whole sophomore year out. Yeah. Because of whatever happened, right? And
in the high school space, we all knew because he played his freshman year. Yes. And we all knew how good he was. And then nothing last year, correct?
Yeah, and then he just explodes on the scene and, you know, EYBL, Pangos Camp, and gets invited to everything all summer, USA and all those things. And man, can do a little bit of everything as well on the court and just physically imposing and playing with guys on that Roosevelt team that they've been playing together since they were 9 years old. And so that chemistry piece is important. It reminds me of the Etowanda team when Jalen Clark went to his senior year and went to Etowanda that one year, won Division I title. And that same kind of thing happened over at Roosevelt as well. So
yeah, I think Roosevelt's another one that I think is probably right. You know, it has the capability of maybe being like not 1, 2, or 3, maybe like 4, 5, or 6 right there in that open division. I know that they've got good guard play, and they've got a couple big fellas too, and so that's and they've got a coach that's been there a long time, and just has a hold on his program. So I think they're going to be really, really talented.
100%. So anything else for the high school season that we should look out for?
Yeah, you know, I just think not necessarily off the top of my head in regards to players. I would just say if you are a high school sports, high school basketball fan, I always encourage everyone to get out to the Damien Classic, man. I just want to plug that event. I went to Springfield College, Massachusetts. They host what's called the Hoop Hall Classic. Trust me, you've probably seen it on TV. Every Martin Luther King weekend at Springfield College, the best high school basketball showcase is put together. It's an amazing event. It's so polished and great. Food everywhere, and the media is taken care of, and the kids go to the Basketball Hall of Fame, which is in Springfield, Mass. So I bring that up because I think the Damien Classic is the best high school basketball event on the West Coast.
Yes.
I think it's right there with the Les Schwab Invitational, which is up in the Pacific Northwest. So I always like to plug that tournament because you can literally get a day pass and watch some of the best basketball in one day.
Oh my goodness.
2 gyms, games going on. You look at the schedule and you just hop back and forth. There's food. Oh man, and you never know who's going to show up. You know, that kind of thing.
School. It's right after Christmas. There's no school. You have nothing else to do.
Yeah. How about hey, Tarek? Why don't you tell them when it is, dummy? Yeah, it always starts on the 26th or whatever. Like if the 26th is a Sunday, I don't have a calendar in front of me. But if the 26th or the 27th is like whatever the next real day is there, 26th, 27th, It runs the next 4 days after that up until like New Year's Eve, like the 30th or the 29th or something. It's a fantastic event. So the classic at Damien is what it's called. And get to it after Christmas because there's a lot of great basketball to watch.
100%. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's great. You guys can just look out for, these teams, see who's going to be tracking for the open division as the season rolls on. I think that it's a great year for high school basketball in Southern California, like it always is. And I think there's going to be some surprises along the way.
Yes.
Like you mentioned those teams that are on the cusp. Man, there's some guys who I think are pros, just from a development eye that can really make some noise. And that's what you need to make a difference is one or two pros can do it for a team that doesn't have as much depth.
I know as a last ad, one of the teams that's kind of there are these teams that are on the cusp that their goal is to make it to the open division, like a St. Pius or a West Ranch, or like a St. Bernard or a Crean Lutheran, where the talent is there, but can they put it together? Can they accumulate the wins? Is the schedule tough enough to justify the committee going, okay, these guys have earned it? Another program that's done it in the past, I don't know enough about them this year. We're still a little early. We're still in October. Basketball doesn't start till like November 13th or 15th or something, is Rancho Christian.
Oh, yeah.
They tend to always be in the open division conversation. So there's just so many teams that have either been there before or they have the mindset, we are an open division team. And they've put together a schedule that warrants that if they can win through it. And so we could see that. And I just want to plug one more thing for high school sports coverage, please, at Tarek Fattal on Twitter, TAREK_Fattal, FATTAL, at scorebooklive.com, also known as SB Live. We are the high school sports arm for SI.com. All of our stuff is on Sports Illustrated, SI.com, awesome. And SB Live is kind of the engine that runs the high school sports sector for SI.com. And I was with the Daily News for 8 years, and now with a new company, SB Live. I love it, having fun, and yeah, man, I'm really looking forward to the basketball season.
Me too, man. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, this is your preview for the Southern section, California basketball. We'll see you at a game. Peace.